Naviera Spearman, and I am a junior at SUNY Oswego studying public relations and sales. During my time here thus far, I've had the opportunity to be very involved on campus. My various leadership roles include being the Director of Social Media and the Director of Professional Development for the American Marketing Association and Secretary for Women in Business. In my current position as an intern for Career Services, I assist students with branding themselves and promoting themselves through resumes, cover letters, and LinkedIns. These experiences have strengthened myself in social awareness, my leadership and management skills, and my adaptability in any environment. I'm excited to be here today with Kurt D'Angelo to discuss the wonders of a career change. Today's program is presented by Career Services and the Development and Alumni Engagement Office with support from WTOP. As a brief housekeeping item, for today's event, if you're tuning in live, you may enter any questions you have for our hosts via the Q&A feature. On your screen through the event, we will leave time for all questions at the end of the presentation. And now, without further ado, I'm happy to introduce our feature host for today's event, Kurt D'Angelo. Kurt graduated from SUNY Oswego in 2002 with a bachelor's and in 2007 with a master's in math education. Having worked as a secondary education mathematics teacher for 15 years, he brings extensive knowledge on presenting to and educating employers, employees, and individuals on their risk tolerance, building in a diversified portfolio and expanding their financial vocabulary. In his current role as Vice President and Financial Consultant for Equitable Advisors, he helps individuals, families, business owners, and their employees and other financial professionals enhance their financial culture and development in their careers. Raising his family in Central New York, Kurt is anchored by a strong dedication to his community. He coaches wrestling at various levels in several organizations. He assists with youth soccer, Little League baseball, and karate. He is a member of Rotary and GSAR and is on the board of CNY Community Arts Center, Catholic Charities of Oswego County, and the Fulton Wrestling Club. Kurt holds the Furnace Series 7, 36, 65, and 24 licenses, as well as the New York Life and Health Safety licenses. And with that, I will kick off our conversation with Kurt. How are you doing today, Kurt?
I'm doing excellent.
That's great.
Do you need a break after all of that?
I'll take a quick breath.
Thank you for having me today, Nadia.
Yeah,
I really
of course.
appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm very excited. So for our first question, what are some reasons that someone would want to reconfigure their career, in part or totally?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, people want to look at what they're passionate about first. You know, Mark Anthony says, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And that does really ring true. So people have to look at what is something that drives them and motivates them that they love doing, and then find a career that fits into that mold. So that's the first thing. Second thing is you want to find a company that has amazing culture. All right. I know that a lot of people that I've worked with as far as clients and or even hiring career changers myself, they're looking for a workplace environment that has positive culture, and they might even leave a company that has better pay and better benefits to go to another company that has a more positive workplace environment, because they got to look at their own mental health, right? And that's first and foremost. The other opportunity too that I come across with a lot as people are looking for career change is they seem to hit a ceiling where they're at currently. So they want to be able to partner with a firm where there's unlimited growth potential. So that way they can really grow and expand and develop what they're, again, passionate about and what they're looking for to accomplish. And then the other thing is income. Now in the environment that we're in, the great resignation that everybody's calling it, a lot of people are jumping ship just to try to earn a higher income. So maybe there are different firms that are out there that you can find that positive culture, but also get paid a little bit more for what you're worth. So it's always good to explore those types of options as well.
Right. I think it's really good that you bring culture, passion, growth, and income into your answer, because those are definitely factors that people should be considering when they're looking to further their career. So our next question is, when someone is not excited about where they are or what they are doing, how do they figure out what else is out there for them?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways to research different opportunities that are out there, but I would suggest starting with your own network. All right, there's a lot of people that are in your environment, family, friends, other colleagues, coworkers, maybe alumni that you're still in contact with, or even here, right, in the Alumni Services Department and the Career Services Department, right, at SUNY Oswego, that may be able to connect you with different businesses or business owners that are hiring that might be in line with what you're passionate about. So you can definitely do that. Or obviously there's social media, right, that people can use and reach out to those networks as well. They can explore options on, things like ZipRecruiter, Indeed, Wall Street Jobs, Monster. There's a lot of, companies that post on several sites, so they can always see what's out there. They usually post job descriptions, qualifications, skills necessary to be able to complete that job at a high level. And then there's usually a phone number of somebody to call. So I always suggest calling that phone number, get a person on the line so you can talk to a human being and ask some other follow-up questions. And usually that personal touch goes a long way.
Yeah, that's great advice. Do you have to quit a job in order to start a new one, or is there a different approach?
Yeah, that's always a great question. So for myself personally, I was a career changer myself. I taught, like you mentioned earlier, Naviera, for 15 and a half years. But I was looking for something new and something different. I still wanted to help people, and I still wanted to make a difference in their lives. And I still wanted something math oriented because, well, I like numbers and they just seem to make sense for me. So when I was making the change and I was in that process of looking and exploring other options, I have a wife and 3 kids, right? And a house and a property to maintain. I couldn't afford to give up income at that time. So myself personally, I was looking at exploring options while I was still working. So that's definitely something that somebody should look at doing. But let's say they have done some great work with maybe a financial planner, or they've done some work themselves. They have an emergency reserve of like 6 months, saved up, and they're able to get out of maybe a toxic workplace environment, because maybe it is really that bad for their emotional and psychological well-being. So maybe they do step out, and then they can utilize their savings to be able to transition to a new job. But that is somewhat risky in my opinion. It would just really depend on, how much do they have in those savings accounts and if they're able to do that. So definitely make sure that you explore those options before you make a decision. I know that there's been times too with some of the hiring that I've been doing where I thought that it was a good fit, the other person thought it was a good fit, and then whatever came to fruition, it just didn't work out. Well, next thing you know, if that ate up some of your precious time and money in making that decision, maybe it doesn't fall through, and now all of a sudden you're like without a job, without income, and you still got to start from square one with exploring those other options. So definitely, be careful with that. Last thing I'll throw out there is, hey, maybe you get rid of that toxic workplace environment. Maybe you just pick up a part-time job. Maybe it's not the dream job that you're looking for, but you're going to at least get some income coming to play, but it might also give you time to either do some education, or maybe you have to do some training to be able to get ready to explore those dream job opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, that's so true. Yes. So what should someone do when they love their job, but now has moved up away from what they originally liked about the work? Like, how can they fix that?
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that, because there's people that like, oh yeah, I'm excited. I got tapped on the shoulder to step up into a management level or get promoted, and maybe it comes with, a more income or more benefits. And people are excited about it, but then they find out that the role of the job is not what they expected. Right? It's not fun. It's not within the passion, set of skills that they had getting into that job. So sometimes that does happen. It does come up. So my recommendation is sit down with your upper management team. Usually they do one-on-ones, or they'll do some sort of quarterly analysis, or they'll do something where they're going to interview you and see what's going on. Have those candid conversations with them. Let them know that you're still a team player. You love the team. You want to be a part of the team, but you really were passionate about the role that you had previously, and you'd love to be able to slide back into that role once they filled your current position with somebody else that's qualified for that. And that'll go a long way
Okay.
with them. Now, obviously, if it's a position where there's, a toxic, manager or boss, and that's not just the avenue that you feel comfortable going down,
Right.
maybe you have to explore options at another firm, right? Where there's an
Yeah.
opening that does some of the similar skills as far as what you're passionate about,
Yeah.
and see what's available, somewhere else. But go the route of the current company first, be open and honest, right? Unless you know that it's completely toxic, you got to move away from that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Environment is everything, but I think with these tips, it can kind of make the process easier.
For sure.
Yes.
For sure.
So what are some factors that need to be taken into account if a career move is being considered? Like, for example, how does someone know what retirement benefits can be moved and how to move them?
Yeah, so that's a great question there. I work with people all the time in their transitions. And so that's definitely something that our team does a really good job of educating those individuals on. So as far as retirement assets, in most cases, right, retirement accounts, there's 4 different options that somebody has with the retirement assets.
Right.
One, they can just leave them there.
Right.
All right, for the most part. Most companies will allow you to leave the funds there. In some cases, some companies, though, if that employee is no longer with the firm and the assets are still with the firm, they might consider that individual a liability on their book, right? There are fiduciary responsibilities that need to be upheld. So sometimes the companies will say, hey, if you're no longer with us, you have to move those funds. Right? So if those funds have to be moved, another option, well, you could take a withdrawal. Depends on how old you are, though. Right?
Yeah.
So if you're under 59 and a half and you take that withdrawal out, well, the IRS is going to be like, hey, we're going to probably have to tax you and penalize you on this. And so that's usually not the best option that's out there, but it is an option. If they're older than 59 and a half, if it is a taxable account, they'll just have to pay the taxes on the distribution, but they wouldn't have a penalty that they would have to incur. Definitely talk with a financial professional on what that distribution plan should look like for you and your situation and your family situation. The other option is if and when you were to get the new job, right, with the new company, there's probably going to be a retirement benefit package with that new firm. So depending on how good that platform of funds are, right, if there's a good selection, if it's diversified, if the funds are performing well and there's not, high internal fees within that portfolio, another option is to roll the funds from the old retirement account into the new one.
Right.
All right. Again, talk with financial professional and see what's the best option. I always analyze and do a report through Morningstar to grade and rate the investments that are out there in those platforms and see what's best suited for those clients' needs. Because then the fourth and the final option that is one that usually most people pick is rolling those funds into an individual retirement account, an IRA. Or, whether it's pre-tax and it's a traditional or it's post-tax and it's a Roth IRA, that'll allow the individual to have a lot more flexibility and freedom of how and where those funds are invested. Right. So there's a lot of different types of accounts that can be set up for individual retirement accounts. So if somebody's looking for protections or guarantees, or they're looking for open architecture, they're looking for a broader selection of funds to pick from, or if they're looking for active management or passive management. Those are the different things that we can educate them on and what's available and what's out there to complement what they have in the new benefits package, but really look at the whole family's picture and their whole portfolio and make sure that there's proper diversification at the risk that they're willing to take on in their overall portfolio. So I know that was a lot. But
I know, but it was all very interesting. And to a follow-up questions, everything that you said, how do you determine if health benefits are portable?
Yeah, so health benefits are key, especially, when you have kids, right? And you have a family that they were on your health plan. Most health plans are not portable. Okay, so there might be like a little bit of a period where you have some coverage before it, like a grace period or whatever, before that falls off. But then they could go into the COBRA coverage. So depending on what state that you're in. COBRA coverage is usually around 18 months, but you got to pay for that, right? You got to pay out of pocket for that extended coverage. And then that should give people at least coverage until they get their new job. And then in the new job, they can look at what's that benefit package going to be like as well. And when are they going to be eligible to enroll in that? So that's the other thing too, when people are exploring different jobs, is what's that new benefit package look like? And is there a time frame where you have to be with the company before you can even be eligible to enroll in their benefit package? So you got to weigh that out in your consideration as well.
Right.
If somebody doesn't want the COBRA, or the COBRA runs out, they still need coverage, their new company doesn't allow them to get it yet, or maybe the new job that you have doesn't have a benefits package, then as far as health benefits are concerned, in the state of New York, there's the New York State Marketplace that people can go ahead and pop in and explore different options for individual or a couple or a family coverage for health, dental, vision. So there are options that are out there, but most health benefits are not portable. Okay. One thing that is portable, before we jump to the next question there, Naviera, are HSAs, or health savings accounts. So some companies have the availability where people can put money pre-taxed into a health savings account. They could have it invested, it grows tax deferred, and then those funds can be used for qualifying medical expenses, either now or in retirement or anytime down the road. And so that's a great way to get tax-free earnings, right? It's the only bucket of funds the IRS says, hey, you can get tax-free on this all the way around, right? Which is nice. Those are portable. All right, so if your new company has an HSA and you have your old HSA, again, you can roll that old HSA into the new one. Again, explore those different investment options that are inside of that and see what investment options are better suited for you as far as risk tolerance and diversification. But that's an option. Or maybe the new company doesn't have an HSA. Just keep those funds in the old company's HSA. You'll have your little debit card that you can use to swipe for any medical expenses, and then you can use that as needed.
Great.
Yep.
How do you account for a transition with the possibility of not having insurance for a probation period of the new job?
Yeah, so we'll touch on that. Like, it's kind of part of what we already talked about. But yes, if you are in a probationary period, you don't have insurance coverage, there's COBRA coverage that you can pay for and qualify to get benefits for you and your family. It is something you got to pay out of pocket. Or again, going into, if you're in New York, there's the New York State Marketplace. Every state has something similar to that. That was enacted with Obamacare. That was put into place. So people can go ahead and they'll just have to seek out their own medical coverage. So they got to find what plan's best suited for them. Yep.
And can benefits at a current employer stay in effect until the new one's kicked in?
Again, in some cases, there's a grace period, right? That might be there, but most of the time, without COBRA or anything else, those benefits are going to cease. If there's investments tied to it, right, those are there, they're still yours. As far as some of those investment benefits, there is a vesting schedule that some companies have. So that vesting piece is on the employer's contributions. So as the employee, any money that you put in is yours, 100%. But the employer, if they're putting in a match or if there's a profit share that they're dropping into the bucket with for you, they might have a vesting schedule. It could be a year, it could be 3 years, 5 years, whatever they put into their contract. So part of that may not be eligible to move. So again, those are things that I will help explore with any of my clients. And again, find somebody that is a trusted professional that can help you with that financial side of the puzzle when you're exploring different career moves as well. Yep.
How does someone bump up the skills needed to move on or up while working full time?
So it's going to take sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people want that work-life balance. They want to, be able to have their cake and eat it too, right? But there are going to be sacrifices that are going to have to be made. So Tony Robbins says, change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. So if somebody really wants to make this move, right, they're going to have to do some sort of, training. Maybe they got to go back to school. Maybe they got to get a degree. Maybe they got to get different licenses.
Right.
There might be a training program that the new company might to have you go through. So definitely, make sure you have time to do that. So for me, right, I'll again tie my story back into the picture because I was a career changer as well. So teaching, right, secondary ed.
Yes.
The bell rings at 7:30, right? Kids are in school before that. So I was usually in school by 7 at the latest, with wrestling and coaching the varsity wrestling. Sometimes we had honor weigh-ins in the morning, or maybe we had a morning workout. So I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning just to get up and ready to rock and roll. And obviously in the snow band here in central New York, right? You got to shovel snow sometimes.
Yes.
And get that out of the way, which I'm sure many of you had to face this morning. Good luck to our alumni out in the Buffalo and Erie area. Hopefully you guys don't get buried in the next couple of days. But, I started off the day like early, right?
Yeah.
So there wasn't really much time for me to do it in the morning. Then I had to work. I had that obligation of the current job. Then coaching after school, right? Then family time with the kids, chores at home, the honey-do list that my wife put together, right? Because I wanted to make sure that everybody was happy and needs were met.
Right.
So I didn't have time to, upskill or, bump up my skills until I put the kids down to bed.
Yeah.
So it was usually around 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night by the time I was able to sit down and do some of the studying and the training and the licensing that I had to do to be able to make this career move that I made.
Okay.
So were they long days? Yes.
Yeah.
Was it tough? Yeah. Were there sacrifices that were made? Of course. But at the end of the day, now I'm in a position where I get to help a lot of people, as far as clients are concerned, or even people that I'm hiring and training for my team. And we're in a much better spot emotionally, right? Psychologically, financially for our family.
Yeah.
So it was definitely worth that sacrifice.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So they got to just make sure that they keep that in the forefront of their mind, right? It's going to be hard. There's going to be some tough times, but the other side, right? They're going to come out way better off than where they're at now.
Yes. Okay. What are remote benefits and how can they benefit a career change?
So remote benefits, there's a lot of different ways to categorize those remote benefits. So I know COVID violently shoved the entire world into a digital age, and pretty much everybody had to remote work at that time. So it really gave us as individuals an understanding of, can we personally be able to work remote, right? I know when I was running meetings, my wife was teaching classes, all 3 of my kids were taking classes. That was a hot mess, right? It was very difficult to be able to have us all focus and do what we need to do. And we made it work, right? Just like everybody else, but that was hard, right? And I just knew for me, working remote was not going to be my strongest suit, right? Now, could I work remotely, right? Going to a client's house or going to their office and their place of employment, or going to the library, right? Or going to a coffee shop that's a quiet place that I can, get some paperwork done. Then right? So if somebody needs some of that flexibility, they don't want to be tied down to a chair or a desk or a cubicle all day, and they need to have a change of scenery, then some of those initial remote benefits are great, right? So definitely make sure you figure that out. But also there are some companies that'll hire a full-time remote position, but they still have hours that you have to work. So there are still set hours, right? So I have some clients where it's like, I work remote, but I got to check in at 9 and I got to check out at 5 or whatever the time frame is. And their managers have little calls or they have to do video chats. And so there is still accountability. So if you're looking for those remote options where you'll have a flexible schedule, you got to figure out with that firm, if it's a remote job, is it flexible hours or is it still working like a 9 to 5 clock in, clock out?
I see.
So that's definitely something to look at. And then also, what like metrics are they using to track your productivity?
Right.
Right? Because working remote has its pros and its cons. I think one of the cons is you're not building a relationship face to face, knee to knee or eye to eye with somebody.
Yes.
And if it comes time when the management team or the CFO or whatever and the financial committee is looking to make ends meet, right, and stay in the black and not in the red for their own profit margin, and they got to cut somebody, are they going to cut somebody that's remote or are they going to cut somebody in person? I'm not saying if it's right or it's wrong,
Right.
but it's definitely something that they better weigh into their consideration.
Right.
So just make sure that they're doing that. Yep. The other thing too that we got to take a look at is some companies that do offer the remote positions, they might even help cover the costs of hardware and software that needs to be utilized. And then maybe talking with your CPA, if you're working out of home, are you going to be able to write off some of your own, household expenses, right, on your taxes? So that's something to talk to a certified public accountant or whatever that knows what they're doing and what they're talking about.
Right.
But that's definitely something that people have to weigh into the consideration as well.
Right.
And if there is technology issues, who fixes it?
Right.
And whose cost is that going to fall on? Is it yours or is it the company's? And yeah, definitely something to look at.
Yes. So the next question is, when giving notice, does a reason need to be given?
I like that question. In most cases, I would say be, again, open and honest.
Yeah.
Right? Being truthful, is always good for your own soul, and you
Right.
can look in the mirror and be happy with what you see.
Right.
So I would be open with that. You wouldn't have to be too thorough with everything.
Yeah.
But there may be some industries where you might have to disclose where you're going.
Yes.
So if there was any licenses that needed to be transferred, or if there was any, different skills or degrees that needed to be transferred over, files or whatever that might have to go from one firm to the other firm, you might have to disclose that.
Right.
So there would probably be something in a contract that you would sign when you first started to be employed with them that would state in the contract what you would have to do.
Okay.
So that's one thing. If it's something that's toxic and there was no necessary, no contractual needs to do that, and you were afraid of certain repercussions or whatnot,
Right.
then I wouldn't disclose that, right? So those are those one-offs and those types of situations. But I would always, if I was to leave, I would always do it in a cordial way, right? In a respectful way. So you can hold your head up high and you won't give anybody else at that current firm a reason to go talk with people in their network to downplay you and your skill set.
Right.
You don't want to burn any bridges, right, when you are looking at making some of those moves or those changes.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
How much information has to be given to a current employer about where the new position or employer is?
So again, I'll tie back, Naviera, to that industry. It's industry specific.
Yeah.
Like for me, being in the financial services industry, I have
Yes.
licenses that have to follow me. I have certain clients that, I have information. So if I was to go from one firm to another firm, I have to disclose everything.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, FINRA and the SEC, the governing organization that oversees the entire financial services industry,
Right.
the individuals and the companies, they say it's mandatory that we have to disclose everything.
Yes.
Okay? So even if I move my own personal residence, right, I've got to let FINRA know, right?
Yeah.
So there's certain industries that's all required. There's other industries where they don't need to transfer any paperwork or any information at all, and you don't have to tell them anything.
Right.
But again, if you built a good relationship with some of the people that were there, and you want to maintain that relationship, because who knows, maybe in your new role, maybe there's a position where you can still utilize the services of the previous job you were at,
Right.
or they could utilize your services. So again, I'll go back to, you don't ever want to burn any bridges. You always want to make sure that those opportunities to collaborate and network and pull, information or people from those networks to help benefit you and future clients or whoever it is that you're working with or whatever type of the company is. So always make sure, right, that you reach out to professionals too, right? So if you're not sure, and maybe you have the contract, maybe it says it in the contract, maybe you're not sure, sit down with somebody that you know and trust, right? Start here with the alumni services and the career services at SUNY Oswego. I mean, they let you do it for free, right? Well, it's part of what you paid when you went to school here, right? So you can always come back and reach out to them. And they have connections with a lot of professionals out in the real world as well. So who knows, maybe they can point you in the right direction of another career move. If you are currently working with a financial consultant, tie them in. If you're working with a CPA, tie them in. If you have a lawyer, for your will or estate planning, or if you're a business owner and you have like lawyers for the business side, ask them, right? Seek out the advice of trusted professionals that's what they do on a day-to-day basis, right? Come to them first. And there was a question that, popped into the chat. So while I'm on that trusted professional thing, a lot of good professionals, they won't charge you for their time up front. Right? So like if I was to sit down with somebody that might not be very well off, maybe they don't think they have a lot of assets, I don't charge for those initial conversations that we have in some of the initial consulting meetings. If I can help them, then great. If I can't, then I'm going to point them in the right direction of somebody else who can. And there's other professionals that I and my team work with that are in other industries that I know are the same way. They truly do want to be a resource and help people. So we can make some of those connections to somebody else. And a lot of times it doesn't come down to like the cost and the fee. It's coming down to doing what's in the best interest of that individual. So find somebody like that. If they're going to charge you $50 for a phone call or $300 for a visit, explore other options. There's going to be other people that are out there that are trusted that do an amazing job. And they might not, charge you right up front. Maybe there is something that they can help you with down the road, but they'll be open about the fee structure of what that looks like to be able to help them. Personally, I work with people that are just starting out that have nothing to people that, are business owners that have hundreds or thousands of employees to anywhere in between. Right? So as long as somebody's, serious about their financial goals and trying to put something into place or just at least learning about it, I'm serious about helping them, and so is my team. And maybe now isn't the right time. And that's okay. But at least they started the conversation, right? They walked down that path a little bit. And then once they are in a position where they are ready, they know who to come to, right? And who to talk to do that. So it's never too early to start. And I just, again, recommend that people tie in some of the professionals that are in their network to be able to get those questions answered.
Yes. And the last question that I have before we open up the audience to Q&A is, so someone who is ready to start looking, what are the things that they need to put in place to approach other employees, like resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn's, et cetera?
Yeah. So again, on the hiring side, I do see a lot of, resumes come across my desk, and I do a lot of cyber stalking via like LinkedIn and some of the professional, networking sources that are out there. Definitely get resumes up to date, right? There's some resumes that I've come across just old information. And so people of like my generation and beyond, even when we first started putting our resumes together, it might have been in like an old version of Word, right? And it's just very clunky and archaic, or even a typewriter where it dinged and we had to slide it back across and then type in it again, right? If your resume looks like it's, a dinosaur, like put it together, we definitely want to get it updated. Obviously, there's pieces inside of Word Publisher where you can get templates for resumes that look nice, right? Or you can talk with, career coaches You can talk with the Career Services Center.
Yes.
Here at SUNY Oswego, there's people that'll help get your resume up to date.
Right.
The other thing is you want to put information on there, but you want it to be concise. I've had a resume that had more pages in the packet than what you have right there.
Wow.
And that's just too much. We don't want somebody's life story in there.
Right. Yeah.
But we do want to make sure that you highlight your skill sets.
Yes.
So in some cases, even what I did when I was exploring other options, I might have taken stuff out of the resume that didn't fit in with the field that I was applying for.
Right. Okay.
Right. So maybe there's certain jobs that you had in the past. Like I flipped burgers at the press box here in Oswego when I was going to college. Does that need to be on my resume for applying for a financial services job at Equitable Advisors? Probably not. They probably don't care that I flipped burgers. They were pretty good, but right, they probably don't want to see that. So if there's a lot of stuff that's on there, maybe take some things out that don't necessarily line up with that job, right? So make it confined and important. Also go to your own personal social media accounts, your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, TikTok, whatever's out there. I don't know, my kids come up with all crazy stuff nowadays. And I ask them questions like, duh, Dad, you don't even know about this? And I'm like, no, please educate me. But make sure you go through some of the social media you have, because we will actually go and look at people's social media accounts and see what's going on in there. If there's something that we don't like, right? If somebody's like still, binge drinking and shooting down funnels or whatever, and they're passed out in a ditch somewhere, showing up on all these pictures, is that a good look, right? That a company's going to put their neck on the line to hire this new employee. So make sure you clean up all of your social media accounts to make sure that you're not displaying something that you don't want to display.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So as we transition into the Q&As, we're going to wait until we get some questions in.
So I see one that says, the grass is always greener. What tips do you have to make sure that you don't jump from one position or organization only to find out that the other organization is worse? Right? Do you recommend that employee try to make their position better at the same organization before looking elsewhere? Yeah, that's an amazing question. Anytime you interview somewhere, they're going to make their company look the best, right?
Yeah.
And nowadays, I just did an interview this morning, and one of the things that interviewee said, right, was he liked the fact that we at least did our first screening call digitally, right? So we did it digitally over Microsoft Teams. I got to see him, he got to see me. We had a good conversation. He told me that there's been a few companies that went through like 3 rounds of interviews just on the phone. Wow. Why didn't they have that person come in and see the office and see what's going on?
Right.
I know people like quick and easy, and I know people like digital, but there's something to be said about being knee to knee and eye to eye, especially with a big decision about a career move. Go see their office. Where's your local office? I would love to stop by and advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
I want to be able to see the office. I want to see what's going on in there. I had another interviewee the other day say that they went into an office to interview, and as they were walking through the office, they said that there was a lot of people that were there, and there was not a single peep. Nobody was talking. It was completely silent. The interview asked, are you an introvert or an extrovert? He was like, well, I'm an extrovert. They're like, well, introverts do really well here because you're going to be sitting at a desk and you're going to be crunching numbers, and nobody really talks to each other here. So instantly he knew that was not for him just because of the culture and the workplace environment. So I would suggest, right, you explore those options, see if you can get in there. Again, talk to people in your network. Maybe you know somebody that worked there, and they might be able to get an insider scoop. Now take that with a grain of salt, right? Just because, if there was one bad experience that happened, you don't want to hear all the negatives. So again, even when maybe Glassdoor is like an avenue that you can look at and see all of the comments that some of the employees have from those firms, and read all of them, right? Don't just read the negative ones. Don't just read the positive ones. Read all of them and start, calculating your own option for you. But with that being said, too, there's going to be pros and cons of every job, right? Even if it is your dream job, there's going to be some parts of it that aren't fun. But you got to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So as long as there's more pros than cons, that's what you're looking for. And as long as your emotional, psychological mindset is in a good spot for you and your family, that's the biggest thing.
Yes. So our next question is your bottom line top 3 pieces of advice for someone considering a mid-career change.
Yeah. So again, I guess I'll tie my story in. Like, some people thought I was crazy leaving like a teaching job, being in the New York State teachers retirement system and having that pension, right? So one thing you had to look at, right, giving up part of something that's a guarantee to going into something that's a risk, right? But the risk that I made was definitely well worth it, and I want to be able to create a bigger, lump sum of money for myself that's going to be above and beyond what that pension bucket was going to be made.
Right.
So first and foremost, financially, you got to make sure that the move that you're going to be making is going to fit with you and your family's needs and structure.
Right.
So do some research, right? Definitely don't just make an emotional decision like that. Definitely make sure you're in a good position financially.
Right.
Also, don't take the first, job that really comes up. Even if you really like it, still explore some other jobs and other competitors that are out there. I even tell people that I interview, right? I'll ask them, have you been interviewing with other financial firms? If not, I suggest you do. I want you to come away with this experience saying, you're the best out of all of them. I want you. Right?
Yeah.
So make sure you explore your options and you figure out what you're all in with. And if you're not all in, find another piece of advice there. Or sorry, the last piece of advice I would say is make sure you have good conversations with your loved ones, right? Family and friends. Make sure that they see your vision as well.
Yeah.
Right? They got to be your support system. So if there's a time where you might need help, maybe you don't have some of that income that you need, maybe your savings is depleted, maybe your benefits package is gone or whatever, right? Or maybe you're just down in the dumps and you need a pick-me-up, right, from a friend or a family member. Make sure that you communicate your vision and your goals to them so they're on board with your move that you're going to be making soon.
Right.
Yep.
Do you have any pieces? No? Okay. No more questions. Sorry, guys. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. So we want to thank everyone for joining the webinar today. We especially thank alumnus Kurt D'Angelo for speaking with us and giving valuable insight into navigating career change. Kurt, we are so appreciative of your time. This has become such an important topic for people during this time of great change in how we work and where we work. A great thanks to our partners at WTOP, the campus-run television station. The volunteer students who helped us present this webinar today are truly pros. Thank you. On a personal note, I would like to thank Gary Morris and Career Services for choosing me as a moderator and allowing me the opportunity to bring such impactful information to our alumni, of which I will be one soon. Finally, we encourage all of SUNY Oswego alumni students, faculty, staff, and friends to stay in touch with SUNY Oswego in the next coming weeks, months, and years. We also encourage you to consider supporting current students like myself by making a gift to the Fund for Oswego. Your support truly makes a difference. And with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you again for joining and have a great day.